And we're back with another podcast. Every year, I like to cover something dealing with the Measurement Science Conference. I support the conferences, both Measurement Science and NCSLI. This is the MSC primer episode, okay? On this episode, we're going to have the president of this year's MSC, which is Don Cross, and then also Tim Mason, who is a mainstay around the MSC circles, but also has been a previous president. So we're going to be talking, and also a co-host with Mike Schwartz. Many of you familiar with him from previous episodes also. We're going to be talking all about this year's MSC that's coming up at the end of this month, the 25th through the 28th of March. Get out there. I mean, we have to participate in these conferences for them to still exist. So please support them all that you can. So let's quickly do an intro for Don and Tim. Miss Dawn Cross recently retired from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Yes, that's NIST. After 40 years of service. Ms. Cross was responsible for the Industrial Thermometer Calibration Laboratory, or ITCL, and calibration of industrial platinum resistance thermometers, thermocouples, thermistors, digital thermometers, over the range of negative 196 degrees Celsius to 550 degrees Celsius. And as a part of her responsibility for ITCL, Ms. Cross maintained the NIST quality system documentation and measurement assurance to maintain compliance with the NIST quality manuals and ISO IEC 17025. Ms. Cross also started being a NavLab assessor in 2005 for NIST and 2008 for outside laboratories, and now does contract work for NavLab. When she's not performing calibrations, Ms. Cross performed temperature research related to the uncertainty of industrial thermometer calibrations and finding alternatives to mercury in glass thermometers. Additionally, Ms. Cross performed NIST technical assessments covering the areas of temperature, both contact and non-contact, ceramics, pressure and vacuum, also fluid flow. To maintain visibility and protect the interests of NIST and U.S. industry, Ms. Cross served on several national standard committees within ASTM E20, which is thermometry, and committees within NIST. She was the sub-chairman for ASTM E20.03 resistance thermometers, sub-chairman for ASTM E20.05, which is liquid and glass thermometers and hydrometers, and member of ASTM D.02 Petroleum Committee. Ms. Cross was also the division safety representative and a member of the Environmental Management Services Committee. So very illustrious career in metrology there at NIST. And then relating to MSC, Ms. Cross has taught courses at the Measurement Science Conference Symposium in 2010, 2011, 2013, 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 22, all covering SPRTs, liquid and glass thermometers, PRTs, thermistors, and thermocouples. And lastly, Ms. Cross started at the Measurement Science Conference Symposium in 2010 teaching thermometry. She became the NIST liaison, which we're going to talk about this in the podcast, in 2015, and she was the vice president of the MSC in 2019 and the president in 2020. Chairman of the board 2021 and 2022. And she is currently serving as president. That's why she's on the podcast. So again, this is someone that knows their stuff. I am very thankful that Dawn took her time to come on the podcast today. So also Tim Mason. Tim started his calibration career with the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah, Tim. Attending PMEL calibration school at Lowry Air Force Base. After serving in the USMC, he began work at Southern California Edison Company's primary metrology lab, ultimately working on the administrative side of the laboratory, including managing all third-party business. Tim worked at Edison Metrology for 27 years until its closing as a result of the shuttering of the San Onofre nuclear facility. Achieving a master's degree in business administration, he has been very active in the measurement community, along with serving in all functions of the Measurement Science Conference for over 25 years. Like I mentioned, Tim is a long timer with the Measurement Science Conference. And so, and also Tim Mason, chairman of the board for the 2024 MSC here coming up. So once again, so thankful that these people are on the podcast. And without further ado, let's get on with the show with Don Cross, Tim Mason, and my co-host, Mike Schwartz from CalLab Magazine and CalLab Solutions. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Ryan, once again, with Sign Calibration School, Metrology Today podcast, and we are on a roll with fantastic episodes. And today is all about MSC. Today we have Don Cross and Tim Mason. We're going to get to introducing them, but also joining me is, of course, Mike Schwartz. A lot of you listening have heard from him before, and so he'll be kind of my co-host for today. So good morning, everyone. Don, do you mind kicking it off and introducing yourself to everyone? Tell everyone about your background in metrology. How did you get into this wacky field?
Sure, not a problem. Good morning. My name is Dawn Cross. I am the current president of the Measurement Science Conference this year. I am retired from National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is called NIST. I have put 40 years in there. I started my metrology endeavor in 1994. NIST had upper mobility, and they were looking for people, and I just happened to be the one that they caught in the hall. And Jackie Wise was the lab director for the liquid and glass laboratory. And she was leaving. She got cancer and she went on disability. So I was given 1 day of training, and she was getting radiation and chemo, and she lived an hour away, and there was just like no way she could make it back to NIST to train me. So I started going to different thermometer companies to figure out all about liquid and glass thermometers, and finally got it completely understood how to calibrate it, the differences between an ASTM liquid and glass thermometer compared to a regular liquid and glass thermometer. And then lo and behold, about 2009, I was told that mercury and glass was being ousted, that we had to find something to replace mercury and glass thermometers. So I started the endeavor of, okay, what are we going to do? How am I going to replace them? So we went into industrial platinum resistance thermometers, and they were just 4 wires and hooked up to big pieces of equipment. But we wanted to put them into more of a digital platform for people. And same thing with thermistors and thermocouples. So through the years, everybody was changed over, and there's no more mercury and glass out there. At least there's not supposed to be. I do know some companies are still using them, but that's their problem.
They can
So
be
in
found.
2000, yeah, it's still amazing. I was doing safety inspections at NIST and opened the drawers, and they're rolling around some mercury and glass thermometers. And I said, I'll take this. So I took them and turned them in. And then in 2010, this is how I got involved with MSC. My supervisor at the time was double booked, and he called me to his office, and I've always helped him prepare his booklets for the conference for like 2 or 3 years. And I said, what conference are you talking about? And he said, oh, it's at Disneyland Hotel, and sometimes it's a different ones, and you have to go, you have to try the pastries. I said, well, I never got the chance. So in 2010, he called me to his office and says, here's your chance to go to the Measurement Science Conference to teach in my place. And I said, okay. And I went out, and I've been a part of MSC ever since. I went from just teaching to being the liaison between NIST and MSC to being vice president, chairman, and back to vice president. And I'm president again this year. So they can't, once you're in, they keep you.
They snag you.
Yeah, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the Measurement Science Conference.
So let me take one step back. So you were already working at NIST, and you just got kind of moved into metrology. Is that right?
Yes, I started in July 1980.
Oh, wow. So what were you doing before metrology? Just
well, I guess my own will. I went in as a secretary. And my mom, my parents wanted me to be a secretary, and I did not want to be a secretary. I wanted to be a veterinarian for large animals. So I said, fine, I'll be a secretary. And I went to school at night. And then they saw that I really enjoyed math, and I went from a secretary only being in there for 6 months to administrative aide, and then up to administrative assistant. I really loved working with numbers. And then when I got married, I had to go back because nobody was hiring any administrative assistants at the time. And I went back as a secretary. And that's when they had that upper mobility. And I happened to be sitting on the floor. My chair fell apart. And this is tight. So I got out the screwdrivers and the wrenches and I put my chair back together. And the division chief was sitting there watching me. He says, "Come to my office." I was like, "What did I do wrong this time?"
Yeah.
So
Oh.
that's when he said NIST was doing this, and he said, "I think you're a prime example." And I said, "Okay." So
Wow.
here I
And the
am.
rest is history. Well, that's really cool though. I know there's a quite a few of the defense contractors that we'll hear from that, if they have unlimited access to our school, sometimes they'll train people from different departments and they'll find a
Hmm.
lot of success in that, because there's just not a good pipeline of people coming into the industry right now, right? Just coming from like high
Yes.
school or any other things. So
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I liked about it is that I was basically the only woman that they chose for this program. But then seeing what I had done opened the doors for a lot of other women to step out of the administrative style jobs and into the technical positions. And Gina Klein is one of them, and she works in fluid flow at NIST. And Sherry Shekels also, and she works in the same division, but she does more of the work with the petroleum people with when they send the big tanks and they need to be measured to make sure they have the right gallon sizes and the right weights and stuff to that nature. And so the positions were women were following me left and right, and so I feel that I was able to open doors for women at NIST.
that's
So
great. Yeah, that's important. I mean, it's still women are very underrepresented in metrology. So that's
yep.
definitely good that you opened that door. So I have to ask, what's it like working at NIST? I mean, for those of us that being on the outside, we always think of it takes forever, that's very specific, the services that are provided, there's it's very specific what can be claimed by NIST.
Mm-hmm.
Is it quite the experience to be at the nation's highest lab?
It's an honor, number one, but number two, people say, "Oh, it takes so long to get something calibrated." You have to think about this. NIST is the only lab the certified lab people are traceable to, and there's more than just one company that sends their stuff to us, and we get backed up quite a lot. And one company back when I did mercury and glass would send me 120 liquid and glass thermometers at one time. And you had to check them under the microscope, make sure there was nothing wrong with them. Then you had to do the ice points, and then you went up the scale. Then you had to wait 3 days to come back down the scale to let it come back to room temperature before you did the final ice point, because it has the expands, and then you need to come back for the contraction part. And when one company sends me 120, and then Exxon, for example, would send me 15 or 18, and they were all ASTM thermometers. So that was a whole different ballpark that you had to look
Yeah.
at. And then in the meantime, you're doing industrial PRTs, and they're 4 wires. And at that time, my lab was not automated. And so everything was basically
Mm-hmm.
done by hand, including your calculations. They were all done by hand.
Yeah,
So
that's
you had
rough.
to, yep. And then I finally gave up and asked for money so I can automate my lab. And we did. And it was perfect. But it's people just don't understand that, okay, I sent an SPRT, and again, if an SPRT comes in, it has to be annealed.
Hmm.
And it takes time to do the annealing process. And they do like 10 different SPRTs at one time. And they're standard platinum resistance thermometers, by the way.
Hmm.
And they take a while as well to be calibrated. And so it's fun being inside the institute. You have a lot of people that are extremely smart. And sometimes I look at myself and thinking, why am I here? I don't even I'm not a candle to these guys. They're so smart. And here I am just, what am I doing? But then they're there, they're helping you. You got questions, they can see you through it, guide you through it,
Sure.
work with you and stuff to that nature. And it's That's what people know me from. We had the International Temperature Symposium back last year when Tim
Hmm.
Mason was the president, and so many people that I've known throughout my career at NIST were there because we had like I don't know, 20 to 30 different countries, and they all, it was so good to see them. And, we work between the labs as well. We have papers that we wrote together. So it was really good to see people like that. But, I
Yeah.
retired 3 years ago, and I do miss it. I do miss the people.
At least you're staying
So,
somewhat connected through MSC.
yep.
But yeah, the ITS 10 was a great conference. I really did enjoy that. Well, thank you,
Good.
Don. Thank you for being on
You're
the
welcome.
show. We'll shift our focus over to Tim. Those of
Okay.
you that have been to MSC probably know Tim. Uh, I would be shocked if you didn't. But Tim, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, Tim Mason. I'm current chairman of the board of the MSC, and I'm a past two-time president. MSC started with me a long time ago, about I started attending in the early '90s, and then I loved what they had, and it was local. So I joined the committee and wanted to participate in the about 2001, and I've been in ever since. Like Don says, once they get you, it's hard to get out. I mean, it's a lot of fun on top of being very educational, and I find I still, as I get older, I forget things, and I can still attend classes and still learn, which is phenomenal for me. I love to learn, and the level of education we always provide every year is outstanding. But getting back to a little, you said a little biography. So I was drug into the metrology field myself. I joined the Marine Corps, and I signed up as a radar MATQ tech,
Mm.
and it was ground radar. But when I went through BEE in Memphis, I aced my first score, which, by the way, my math skills at that time were related to business math. I could barely pass. I hated math. And I mean, literally, it was not, I was interested in science, which
I
had
feel
math.
that.
Yep. And then I love history and somewhat English a little bit, but hated math. So I just took all the basic math classes in high school. Never dreamed I'd be in a field where I'd have to learn calculus and trig, which I did learn in the Marine Corps at a Marine Corps level, which was scary, but I always passed. So that was
By
good.
the numbers, right? That's what we
Uh,
say.
yeah, by the numbers. So I went through my first BEE class in Memphis or Millington, and they said, "Hey, come in to see the gunny." And I went to see the gunny. And he says, "We're moving you." I'm like, "Where am I going?" Because I was supposed to go to Texas for radar school, and they said, "You're
Mm.
going to Denver." What's in Denver? Well, that's a PMEL school, and they called it PMES, Precision Measuring Equipment Specialist. And I said, "What's that?" And they said, "We don't know, but that's where you're going." And I said, "Can you do that?" And they said, "We absolutely can. We own you." So off I went to Denver, and I went to PMEL at Lowry, and the rest is, so to speak, history. They gave me a career, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, you're
So
better off. MATQ sucks. I
that's
got
what I
good
heard.
friends. Like some of my best friends in the Marine Corps were MATQ and they hated it.
I heard that too. So I was very happy they took me out. Very blessed.
Yeah,
So
I went over to help a MATQ lab and they had no idea. You would be in a totally different world because none of them understood at all what calibration was. They needed a lot of help.
yeah, I can't. I don't look back. That's for sure. So anyway, here I am. So I went to did the Marine Corps. Got out. Went to work for SAIC, and then I did a 27-year stint at Southern California Edison, working my way up to running all their third-party business, and that was a phenomenal lab. Love that till they shut down the nuclear plant, San Onofre, in 2013. Then I worked for a few other companies, and then I settled in at NIST. Worked for the Measurement Science Department for DoD. So that's what I do now. I help our customers with calibration programs. So that's my current state. So I got a long history in the metrology field, and especially MSC,
Well,
which I
welcome
do
on.
love.
It's a pleasure to have you on, Tim. And I think a really good place to start because I don't think we've done a full like MSC special like this. How did MSC come about? Maybe Mike, you can help out with that, or whoever's best to chat about it.
Oh,
What do
it's gonna be Tim. He's the historian of the group.
so,
Well,
so what is so measurement science conference? So for people that maybe have never been, where did it come from and all that?
MSC started in 1979. Phil Pinchard, He started it. It was just a way to get PMA professionals, what they call precision measurement people together. And it started out in I think it was the college up the road here, and the name is escaping me, but it's a small college just up the road in Orange County, South LA County, the borderline, and they started right there, and then it grew into they had because back in the late 70s, early 80s, there were a massive amount of calibration companies, all small individually owned companies, and I can name Hightel or Highline, Comtel locally here. There were a ton, and of course they all were calibrating all this pharma because in the 80s, if you remember, there was a lot of business growing and company pharmas were very heavy here in Orange
Mm.
County. And it started right here in Orange County. So it grew and grew. And then eventually they had to move it to a larger conference and a larger venue. The conference kept growing and then it turned and they started out, they created a charter. They became incorporated through the state. It is a corporation and it's a nonprofit and they just operate off of it's an education nonprofit and that's how it started. And a lot of as a matter of fact, we still have one member on our board and a committee member that has been with it almost the entire time. That's John Bowman. He
Mhm.
is he would be the man to ask about the details because he was involved back in those days,
Sure.
how it started. But he's like us. Once you get involved, you don't go away. I mean, you can, but I mean, we lose a few people through attrition and just retirement or transferring out as such. But most of the people that are with the MSC have been with it a long time, and
And how
that's
does that
because of the love.
and how does that exactly happen? Like you mentioned, you've been the president before. Don's the president this year. So does it change every year? How does that stuff work?
Yes, the way the board operates is the charter states you have to be a committee chair, and then you become a you can become a board member, and it's elected by the body. The business meeting is held every year at the conference on the main day, which is this year will be a Wednesday. So we'll have a board meeting that day with a chair meeting, and the members will vote for future board members if there's any the slots are available. It's a 3-year term and again elected position, and then you can become on the executive committee, which is the vice president, president, and chairman of the board. The other members are directors. So it's a rotating every year. So you're vice president 1 year, then you become the president, then you become chairman of the board, and then you go back. And that typically your term's over at that point, if that's so, unless you want to stay, and then you can be reelected for another 3-year term, and you can do 3 years as a director. And as far as committees are appointed, they are appointed just by people, by like the president this year, Dawn Cross. She has her own committee. She can bring in whoever she wants to work on her committee, and that's up to the president. And they create their own because they're the ones that have to do the work for her. You know, kind of like any other manager, you have people behind
Mhm.
you that you bring in good people. Hopefully, will make you look better, right? That's usually the way it works. And so you bring in people, and then those people can, if they enjoy it or want to stay, they can stay on as committee members. That's an appointed position, so it's not necessarily you don't have to be elected. And
Mm.
then
Mhm.
if they want to become further involved and know how the board works, and get into the financing and just how all how we set up the conferences, because running a conference is a huge endeavor. It's Denver, good one, right?
No, no,
Um,
no pun intended.
so it's a lot of work, and this is all volunteer, by the way. There's no paid people on the MSE. It is strictly volunteer, and you have to love the game in order to put in the time, because it can be time consuming, especially as you get into the upper end, as Don knows. Being a president is now Don got the privilege of being president during COVID. So we worked our way up until the week before the conference, and we were all locked and loaded, ready to roll. People had plane tickets. We were ready and then Disney, and of course, California shut down, and then Disney shut down, and then conference was canceled a week before the show. So that was Dawn's first presidency. So
Yeah,
she's
like
back
welcome,
again.
welcome in.
So she was a victim of COVID too. So so she's back, but it's MSC is great. So again, back to bringing it back to full circle. That's how the board works. It's elected officials, elected position, and then you stay on for 3 years, and you can be reelected. And Again, most people stay on. They want to stay on, and sometimes we don't have enough room for people. Even committee members, we get a lot of people that want to commit to help, and we try to get as many people in as we can, because it helps the industry to have more industry involved, right? So
For
it helps
sure.
branch out, and it helps in bringing technical sessions, bringing tutorials and things like that. The education side, the more we branch out, the more people know people, and that's how the network grows.
I was going to say, people that are listening, if you're capable of teaching a tutorial, don't be shy, because those things are always needed at MSC, because if you got information to share and or a paper, I know that's the way that a lot of this industry works. So that was an adjustment for me coming in, and it's like, hey, we want you to participate, but you got to write these papers or an abstract or whatever. So, I would say a very good experience, and something that I would recommend people do, especially if you have the ability. That's the hard part, is finding people that are capable of teaching. I mean, I know we all face the struggles trying to hire good technicians. Try finding people that could teach this stuff. So if you got information to share, I would highly recommend contacting the conference. Now, we should go into how can people sign up for this stuff? I know this stuff is very basic for those of you that have been doing this forever, but I've told this story many times. When I came out of the Marine Corps, I knew nothing about MSC. I knew nothing about NCSLI. Luckily, Mike Schwartz called me and said, "Hey, you should start doing these conferences." We should go over the who, what, when, where, and why on all that. So I don't know who's best to talk about that, but some questions that are good, like what are the most attended tutorials, for instance. Don, you mentioned NIST is kind of partnered with MSC and doing tutorials. Seems like a unique opportunity to learn from people
Mhm.
from NIST. I mean, it's not very often, and you got to pay a lot of money to go to those courses in like Denver and stuff.
And well, in Gaithersburg as well. Yes,
Right.
NIST has what is it, 9 classes to offer this year. And you got the best of the best teaching. And the one thing you could do is go into the MSC website, which is msc-conf.com. And in that, inside of there, you go down on the events and click the MSC 2024, and it goes into the top line and shows you that you could be an exhibitor. And then over to the back, to the far right, is your classes. And it's a bar, you highlights, and you go down, and it has the tutorials that are being offered. It has the technical sessions that are being offered. It has the NIST classes that are being offered. It has ASQ that's being offered. The keynote speakers that we have so far is on there, and also has the prices broken down for from 4 days. It's a 4-day conference, so you can come all 4 days, which is the best price. You got 3-day, 2-day, 1-day. If you just want to come into the exhibit hall, there's a pass for that as well. So
And those
yeah,
passes
NIST
are
is,
inclusive. Like you get the food, the training.
yes, you get breaks, lunches, the exhibit.
Reception.
Yes, thank you. I'm dead. I'm
Yeah, with the
tired
band,
today.
with the bands. You got to
Yes, and
talk
that's the
about the bands.
president's. Now I'll let Tim talk about that. But on the president's dinner, Tim has gotten 2 great bands to come out and perform. So Tim, you want to say who your bands are?
Well, no, because we want it to be a little bit of a surprise.
Oh,
But I will talk, just cover the conference real quickly.
Yeah.
Is we have 4 days, and it's we focus on the education, but we're one of those, we're the conference likes to have fun. That's always been when I came on board, it was always a big deal to have the president's reception, and it's just kind of a bonus, because you get a lot of education, but you work all week, you work all year, and then you come to training, which can be intense. Some of the training can be, especially the advanced classes, it can be intense, and so we like to have fun. So the first night, we offer the exhibitors reception, which goes from 6 to 8 on Tuesday night, the 26th. And that'll be a time for we call it the exhibitors reception, because in the previous years and decades ago, it used to be just a time for the exhibitors to get together because the conference was so busy. When you're on the floor, you don't have time to talk amongst yourself. So that was kind of the night where the exhibitors got together and could hang out and just mingle amongst themselves and trade trinkets and whatever they were. And a few of the exhibitors were in, and then we started letting more and more attendees in, and now it's just an open night. But it's a good night because the food is provided, and there'll be some kind of beverages, whether it's coffee, tea, and then there'll be adult beverages if people want to purchase them. But it's a good time to just kind of wander in without a lot of pressure. You just kind of get to see what the layout of the floor plans and just kind of talk to the exhibitors, because that's the beauty of these conferences, the NCSLI both, is that you get to meet a ton of exhibitors, and these are the manufacturers and service providers that provide our industry, and they a lot of times have the newest, latest and greatest invention, latest and greatest innovation out there. I know Fluke is going to be bringing something out, and there's other companies that bring things out that they're going to be introducing. Additel is always good for something unique and new that's prevalent in the
Right.
industry. That's very needed. They're on top of it, and so
their
it's a lot of
backgrounds that you can see from the heavens.
yeah, the Las Vegas area, we call
Yeah.
it. So it's there's a lot to do on the exhibit floor. So it's a good night just to kind of get together, and again, it's food and drink and just a mingling. And then the president's reception is always at the president's regard, and this year it's Dawn. So she indicated what she wanted to have and how we wanted to set it up. So we're going to have a great night. Last year was my party, as anybody that attended knows that it was that was a good time. It was it was a lot of it was a big year for us because it was the ITS 10, which is only done every 10 years,
Like a
and
double conference, so it was
it is a
very
double conference.
populated. Yeah.
Yes, so it's a lot of people, especially foreign people. We had what, 16 countries represented last year, I think, and yeah, it was a very good time, and we're going to try to in the future not wait 10 years to try to pull something together like that again. We're going to try to work with the international conferences and probably try to do that again, because that's a great time to network. And I know the foreign companies that I talked to, a lot of them were very glad to be here and meet with like NIST and people that they talked to on the phone and interface, and they hadn't got to meet. It's nice to it's nice to get that relationship going. So that was a good time also. But so the president's reception is a night of relaxation, basically. It's there's still some networking. Obviously, you want to network, and this is the time you can bring your families in and just enjoy this year we're going to have the gaming tables again. Don wanted to make sure we had gaming tables like we did last year. We're going to have those, and you don't win money, obviously. We win prizes, so you get tickets and you can win some prizes. And we will have music, and there will be food, lots of good food. Disney's well renowned for its world-class chefs, and we have great food. And this is all part of a ticket. If you have any one-day ticket for the conference, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can attend any of the events that go on with them. They're part of your ticket. And so we invite everybody to come out and enjoy the festivities, and don't skip the after hours, because those are a lot of fun.
That's right. Well, and one thing I want to mention on the exhibitor end is I know a lot of people listening are just like me, measurement geeks, right? I love going around and seeing all the equipment that I might not have had a chance to do hands-on with, or I like here at the school, I don't have Fluke sales reps and stuff stopping by to show me things, so getting a chance to see all the stuff that's been released, or maybe I've been curious about, talk to the representatives. But then you also see the boutique ones that maybe there's certain applications that you're looking for some other options of standards. This is a place you're going to learn a lot of the different industry players. And there's quite a few out there that are newer labs, hiring a lot, trying to build your capabilities and everything. Places like this are just endlessly valuable for getting information, and you've got days where you can go and pick brains around this event. So it's not just I like to call it, Tim, a metrology vacation, right? Where you go and learn on a kind of a fun vacation, right?
It kind of is.
But I don't
Yeah.
want managers to be afraid to send their people to it. I think there's good value in the fun that's at these. I mean, it's not a raging party, it's fun, a good fun, but then also good education at the same time.
It's all based around networking. And the events are actually to network. I mean, it's to bring people together. We give them incentive to come to an event like the exhibitors reception. We offer food, we offer drink, and it's a time to get in there and just mingle. It's amazing. I didn't realize this. John Bowman was telling me this the other day. We were chatting about just metrology stuff, and he was like, "Do you know how many people that you and I could call if we have a problem?" And we're not just talking about technicians. We're talking about, I could make a call to Dawn, right? Dawn is a temperature guru at NIST, or was, still is, but she's no longer. But I can make calls to people like that. I know industry professionals from the MSC that I could call at any time, and I didn't even realize how many people my network is as to who I could reach out to if I have an issue. I know VPs of companies that are at the show. They're in their booth, and you go meet them. You get a card and you talk to them, and then you could call them if you have a problem with and I don't want to say there's issues, but let's say I'm trying to learn how to use something, and I can call King Neutronics, and I can talk to the VP, not necessarily every time, but he will refer me to somebody that I could talk to. But we have that network ability to get an instant answer, and it's that networking that we promote. It's the events are great and they're fun, but they're incentive to get people out to come out and network so that you can meet these people, get to know them, and have them on your phone. I was going to say speed dial, but have them on your phone, or if you're really old, Rolodex. And right,
thumbing through.
right. So, but that's what it's for. It's really all based around the education and networking. I stress that over and over. We do have fun, but it's also it's all based around the work of the metrology field and the measurement professionals.
Yeah,
And I liked it. Go
I
ahead,
was going
Mike.
to say, if you take one of the classes, you're going to be sitting in there in the class with an industry professional there that's doing this kind of training for you. So you get those contacts, but you also get contacts of other people in that class that are going to be having, a lot of the similar issues that you guys are having. As you're, growing through the industry, you're going to make friends that you're probably going to know for the next 20, 30 years if you stay inside of the industry. So that's the other thing, because you guys are going to go through that funnel together. And that was part of the reason that I asked Ryan to come out and do some tutorials at MSC years ago, is MSC has a lot of the medium and higher level metrology education. And we're working into getting more and more of that basic education in there, so it can be a full circle thing. And then I wanted to hit for businesses, bringing people out. You walk into the lunchroom and it's overwhelming. There's tables everywhere, 10 people per table. You just go sit at a random table, right? And the people at that table, I have yet to walk away from a lunch at any of these conferences where I didn't get a new contact of somebody that, I've got another person I can reach out to, all by just sitting at a table and everybody introduces themselves. So it's great for networking. And I didn't do the gambling last year, but I heard a lot of people met people at the blackjack tables and the roulette.
I mean, naturally, what a better place to meet people than at the tables, right? Well, I just thought we were mentioning the classes, and Tim, you used the word, there are some that are more intense than others. So let's just talk briefly about the range of classes. So obviously there's going to be ones for beginners. Are the NIST ones on the more intense side, or is it kind of intermixed on that, Dawn? What is to be expected of the classes? Is it easy to tell which ones are more difficult or not?
I'm just looking at the list when you were talking about that. We do have some introductions courses this year. Introduction to humidity and trace measurements. The one that's going to be the toughest, which everybody, it's a 3-day course. And it's a hands-on workshop on assessing and reporting measurement uncertainty. And everybody needs to know how to do the uncertainty. And it's a well-attended class, but it's all 3 days. So, but that's a really good class. And the fundamentals of metrology, it's a 2-day course. And again, all these classes, people need to have these, if you're going to be doing calibrations. The NIST pressure and vacuum measurements there. Mass force and torque realization via Kibble balance is going to be there this year.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a good class as well. I mean, all of them are excellent classes, don't get me wrong. An introduction to time and frequency metrology is a 1-day course. And my course is being taught in 1 day this year. I said, how?
Slamming it
But
in, I
they're,
guess.
well, they're not doing, they're not taking any hands-on equipment this year. So an
Oh, okay.
introduction to contact thermometry theory and practice.
Well, they're not teaching mercury thermometers anymore, so they can.
That's true. And then they're doing introduction to photonic sensing and optical based sensors and auditing traceability and auditing of oh, that's there twice. Oh, gotta ask that. So, you got NavLab going to be there and teaching a 1-day class. So you have a mix of, or it's a range. You can go from introduction to medium to very intense, as I like to call it.
And I think that's a
Brian?
great point, because I noticed, just because I'm newer to this stuff, right? I started going in 2019. You see a lot of management at these, and it's I feel it's important because there's a lot of, I guess we'll just call it, younger metrologists that need some help and would benefit greatly from getting a
Mhm.
chance to go to places like this, where it's a meeting of the minds, for lack of better words. Like, it's where they can kind of sift in and find information that will help them in their day to day. Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I was waiting for a pause there, but one of the main features of the MSC this year is quantum metrology. We
Mhm.
haven't even touched on that yet, and that is the actual future of our industry. That is where it's going. It's going to take a while to get there, but it is starting. And like every other major change in an industry, this is going to affect everyone eventually. Anybody that stays in the metrology measurement field is going to feel the impact of quantum metrology or quantum measurement as we move forward. And Dawn chose that as her theme this year, and rightfully, we are focusing on that with our classes. Dawn's class, Dawn put together the roster, and we got the classes, and we're having, I'll let her speak on it, but we're having NIST on a Chip, which is going to be an amazing roundtable that's going to be Wednesday morning, and that is
Mhm.
going to be from 8 to 10 but that is going to be where industry professionals are going to be there to talk about NIST. And I'll let Don speak on it. But so there's that theme that we want to work on, and every year we do have a theme, but this year is really important with quantum metrology, and everyone should literally come out to this. I would come out just for that, because of the knowing where the industry is going and the amount of industry professionals that are going to be there to discuss this and to share their knowledge and to take questions. That's the best part. You can ask a question and get an answer right there, and not have to read it in a book or read it in an article and then go, what does that mean? Or, boy, I wish
Without
I need to ask
translation.
Yes. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And, but I'll let Don speak on that in just a minute. But I also wanted to cover the basic metrology. We always talk about having industry professionals, but we also have industry newbies. And that occurs a lot in the industry, especially pharma, where they hire metrologists or on the job training, and they're trained on a specific discipline such as pressure or temperature or something that relates to pharmaceutical, right? And then they get trained, and then they don't have a working background of metrology. But this is where you can get it at the MSC. I know sign metrology is a great way. Sign training is a great way to get that training, but to get an overview of everything is at the MSC. And sometimes it's tough to squeeze it all in. We're literally like the hodgepodge, because there's so many classes. It's kind of like, what do I take? What do I? But focus on if people want to come and focus on what they need right then, such as intro to another discipline. That's like intro to humidity. You may work in humidity, but do you really know what it is? Do you know what dew points are? Do you know how they measure? Do you know what a dew point meter is? Do you know what a humidity generator is? There's the companies that manufacture this equipment are going to be there. You got RH and Thunder and a few other companies, and these people are there, and they're the industry. They make the equipment. So what better time to go stand in front of them and ask them questions, and they have the answers. So, I mean, it's a great learning environment. But Donna, if you would touch on the quantum metrology side of the conference.
Okay. This is what my conference was supposed to be back in 2020, and I had to delay it several years. But this is really involved with quantum. Is You got the quantum clocks, you got the quantum frequencies. We're doing the anything that you can imagine is quantum at NIST, and everybody's trying to go that way, going up the ladder. So actually on Tuesday at lunch, the keynote speaker is Jim Kashmerek, and he is the PML director. And he is giving a talk on quantum at his keynote is on quantum at lunch. And then on Wednesday, like Tim said, we're having NIST on a chip as a panel session. And we do have people from the Navy, the Air Force, Army, I think, is going to be on the panel. 2 NIST people are going to be there. And it's, what is NIST on a chip? How's it going to affect the community, the calibration world? How's it going to change things? And a lot of it with the Air Force is the agility of it. It's got to be a lightweight. It's got to be swift. It's got to move quickly. And when you have something lightweight, that's the NIST on a chip. There's your thermometer. This is what you need to use. And the calibration is a longer intervals. It doesn't have to be like a SPRT. If you click it, you know you changed that calibration. You need to send it back in. But this is going to be more sturdy as well. So there's a lot of questions that, they're going to have a little, I would say dog and ponytail, and you talk about it, a little show at first. And then there's going to be Jay Hendricks is going to ask the panel different questions of what it does for, what does the Navy want out of the NIST on a chip? What's the Air Force? What's the Army? The Department of Defense? And then what's the normal person going to be using the NIST on a chip for? The normal mom and pop shops. What is it going to do for Fluke? Stuff to that nature. And it's going to be very interesting. I've been working with Jay and Barbara from NIST the last couple of days, getting their abstract together so we can put it out on a marketing thing that Tim always puts out from MSC. So I want to draw a lot of people into that because I think I know that's the way the future is going, but we need to see it as well as other companies needs to know how is it going to affect me? How's it going to affect Exxon Oils, for example, or how's it going to affect all the petroleum? How's it going to affect pharmaceutical companies? So it's I encourage people to come out to see what NIST on a chip has for us now and has for us in the future.
Yeah, I used to be the biggest skeptic of NIST on a chip, thinking I'll never see it in my metrology career. But I had a conversation with one of my contacts out at the U.S. Air Force, and he's like, "No, we're testing these things now." The Army's been working, the Army and NIST and all the group in there has been working on an ACJJ that's going to be the size of a big cooler. So now you can have that kind of accuracy, SI traceability right there in your facility. So this is going to be very interesting, and I'm changing my mind. It's going to be in my lifetime. I'm going to see this, and I'm probably even going to put my finger on one and run a couple tests at some point.
Yeah, and that's the other side of the coin, is that when the industry, the DoD takes an interest in this, so now it's filtering down, and then eventually it's going to hit the commercial world, because all the commercial world deals with NIST, right? Everything relates back to NIST as our MI. So it's going to be in the commercial world. So that's why it's important for everyone to come out and see what's going on with quantum, because it is going to affect you, and it's going to snowball. It started out slow because of the technology and the interest behind it. I remember having conversations with some NIST people in 2017, and they were talking about how they were going to put all mass calibration was going to be quantum, and they were going to be individual, and it was going to, you're not going to have the big standards that we have now in weights and comparators and things of that nature. We're going to have, it's going to be a lot different. And I don't want to, I mean, if you want to know about more of this, you need to come to the MSC. That's our hook and line right there.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to know more about this, come to the MSC. But there's a lot of changes coming, and it's going to affect industry, because once the NIST gets involved, commercial is right behind it, because you're going to have to conform. It's like when 17025 came along. Remember how everybody screamed and hollered about having to conform? It was going to cost money. We were happy with Z540. What do we need 17025 for? And I'm not going. And then now everyone is 17. It took a while, but everybody had to conform because that was the industry standard. And that's what this is going to be. This is going to be the industry standard. This is the new industry standard. It's not there yet, but it will be. And when it does, it's best to have a lot of knowledge and know how to navigate through it. But it's new and innovative. It's fun. It's going to affect a lot of the industry, and frankly, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating technology. And I remember talking to Greg Strauss about it, and I said, "How did this?" And this is a lunch. This is a conversation I had with him over a meal. Right, we're all sitting at the table and talking to Greg, and I'm like, "So, okay, how did this come about? How did this become a thing?" And he goes, "We were sitting around," and he goes, "I thought of it, and I had my interns work on it. They're all physics interns, by the way, at NIST. You
Oh
have
yeah.
interns, they're all physics majors, right? So his interns, interns, uh, he, he said, I had them get to work on it, and it took a few years, but this is what we came up with. And I'm like, so it was just a thought of how can we make metrology better, cheaper, more effective,
Mhm.
and more accurate, right? That's
Well,
the key,
it's
accuracy.
bringing that reference a little closer to where the rubber meets the road
Yep.
in the world, from
Yep.
what I understand.
It's
Mhm.
well, it's the same thing with uncertainty. Remember when uncertainties came around? It was because we had to have uncertainties as opposed to a TAR, because the calibration, the units that we were calibrating were sometimes more accurate than the standards we were calibrating or with, right? So we had to have some sort of uncertainty, and we had to know if we were in or out and what's the band. And so uncertainties came along because the technology was changing. I mean, you can buy a handheld now that can measure up to like 1 gigahertz. Before, you'd have a piece of equipment the size of an automobile measuring that, and you'd have Smith charts and dots and all the things that went around with high frequency. But now you can do it in a handheld, and that requires a standard. Yeah,
In the
exactly.
size of my hand, those who watching on YouTube, in the size of my hand, I hold a vector network analyzer that is usually a humongous thing back in the day, and now it's held in our hands.
Yep. And that's where uncertainties came from, is partially related to that, because everything was getting so accurate. How can a TAR no longer works? 4-to-1 doesn't work when you're 1-to-1 or worse, upside down. So you had to have some PF, false accepts, false rejects, and all that. So that's how it all changes. It's a
Mhm.
constantly evolving. You know the rule: if you're not changing, you're dying. So it's an industry that's constantly got to change in order to stay ahead, and that's where quantum comes in, and that's Don's vision for having the conference this year. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great conference, and I'm looking forward to the training. And it's going to be a great time to be, especially to be in Anaheim in March. I don't know what the winters. I know the winter's been a little tough out there. I live in Southern California. We just had rain, so that was our winter. So,
Yeah, a lot of
you
rain.
know. So those who want to come out to California and at least enjoy the weather, that this is a good time to do it. And so anyway, enough of that. But Don, what else you got?
I'm thinking.
Well, I was going to also do a shout out to our sponsors. So we got Fluke, Aditel, and Indiesoft this year as
Oh yeah.
sponsors, and that really helps as well for the conference, because sponsorship money is what allows us to do these extra things like
Mhm.
an extra band, or do the because there's costs to bring in the dealers and whatnot for the blackjack tables and the roulettes, and sponsorship really helps a lot with that. So I wanted to reach out and thank them. And also, if companies are coming out, there's also some sponsorships that are available. So,
And yeah, not only do they help, but they help offset obviously the cost of the conference, and they help to keep the cost down as much as we can. Because hosting a conference is, if you're not on the other side of it, they're expensive. It's just the nature of the beast. And when you get that many people together, there's a lot of moving parts. But it also helps to fund our educational projects too, because the MSC is a nonprofit educational society, or society, a corporation, and we do bring we offer scholarships to young interns. As a matter of fact, one of our board members, Miguel Chorizo, he was a scholarship winner way back in the day, and he's been involved in the MSC ever since. So
Awesome.
our scholarship program is still well involved. We usually try to do about 5 scholarships a year. Plus, last year we also sponsored people coming in from other countries that couldn't necessarily afford the total amount. We offset their costs with the sponsorships, and so it's the education side is really really important to us, and that's the corporation side. So, but that's why we've been around. It's education, and that's what makes it fun, being able to share the knowledge. And just like
Mhm.
Ryan was talking about, if anyone out there has a skill, or you're an SME in something, and you want to come out and present, that's a good way to get your employer to send you, is to get set up with a paper, and then you can say, hey, I'm presenting at the MSC, I need to go, and that's always a good way to get there. And I mean, it's always a good reason to be at the MSC, but it's a good way to get your corporation to pay for it. So, but that being said, it's a great time. It's a good educational event, and the training is outstanding. It's hard to beat the amount of people. If you had a brain trust meter on the MSC, it would be pegged out, because there's so many industry professionals there. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's almost like gluttony for metrology. It really is. The NCSLI is very good about that also. I mean, I'm partial to the MSC, but the NCSLI is a sister organization that teaches the same thing. We have the same education structure, but we have different ways to present it. So it's two different conferences, but they're both unique and both good. And we work together, and we're obviously we're the only two really good measurement dealing with wide range metrology and measurement conferences in the country. So it's good to attend both. But if you can only do one this year, you know which one I'm rooting for. But,
right. Well, and I mean, like you said, the at least from what I've noticed, MSC really makes an effort to make it an enjoyable endeavor, and also making sure that it's welcome for those that are new to the industry as well. So, I don't want to be partial in the school. I think they're both really good, but again, the fun is a good thing. I think it's a good thing to get people away from the grind a little bit, and have a chance to mash heads with people that have been around in the industry. I mean, there's been numerous people that come on this podcast and have said, from Jeff Gus to one that's getting released soon, Howard Zion, that you come to the conferences and you start. That's how a lot of people have progressed in their career, because many people sit. I mean, if we look at the mass industry, third party Cal Labs and stuff like that, even in defense contracting, there's a lot of you out there that are doing the same thing for years, and some of you want to do other things, and it's hard to find ways of doing that. Of course, sign calibration school is one way, but a more direct way that people are familiar with is these conferences, and that's a way that some of the heavy hitters today have gotten there, is from the conferences, because it's I mean, there's not easy routes otherwise, so I'm definitely a supporter. I think it's a good thing for everyone. Get your people out there, give them some time, reward your best technicians, get them out there, and they can get some interactions with other people in the industry as well.
And Ryan, one thing I'd like to also stress is that it's important that people attend the conference. It's with the digital age and the Zoom, as we're doing right now, we do Zoom and team meetings a lot more since COVID. It's important to get out and interface and do these conferences, because without the people, there will be no conferences, and we don't want them to go away, because they're very important. The exhibitors bringing out their wares, the people learning new things, and just again that networking. It's hard to network over Zoom. We've all found that we can do our work with Zoom and Teams and things like that with virtual meetings, but there's still that getting together and being able to be in that environment where you're with other people, listening to other questions, and it's not waiting for a pause in the digital moment. It's being there live and attending, and just like you said, networking and having a little bit more fun. It's Zoom meetings are fun, but they're not fun. They're not being at a conference.
Well, it's not access either, Tim. I mean, like if I meet you here, it's different than meeting in person, and you hand me a card, we have a handshake.
Right.
It's not the same follow-up, right?
Exactly.
A Zoom meeting, or if we're all keeping up to date with each other through Zoom or through a broadcast conference, that's going to be difficult for us to network truly and completely. So yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
Yep.
So we're getting close to the end of the hour. I always like to ask a fun question of the guests, of what is the weirdest thing that you've ever had to measure, or that you've ever seen measured? We have some really interesting ones that come up with that. Have you experienced any weird measurements? The one I always provide is, like, I've shown up and I've had to do it at the county morgue, around amongst temperature sensors amongst dead bodies and things like that. I thought that was really weird. Is there any, Dawn, do you have any weird things that you saw come through NIST doors that you can share? No, you don't have to break any
Nothing about morgues.
secrecies.
I had received this big box, and it rattled. and it's right after 9/11. And I thought, holy crap, someone sent me a bomb. And I left and I left it in my lab. And I went to the boss and I said, told him. He came up and his name was Dean Ripple. And he says, oh yeah, it's a thermocouple from a power plant. They had rolled the thermocouple up in knots and stuck it in like a 12 by 12 by 12 box. When we finally unraveled it, it was 20 feet long. And then I said, how do you measure this? My bass is only 2.5 feet deep. And we finally crinkled it enough, and we did get an actual measurement on this 20-foot thermocouple. And I said, I'm not holding it back the way it came.
Wow.
I just did a measurement on this thing, and it was so funny. It was very accurate, but it scared the living daylights out of me because it came in a box and it rattled, and it was all wound up in a knot. So
yeah.
Timing is
Well, do you know
everything.
what it was reaching into by chance? Do you happen to know?
no, hopefully it was clean. I cleaned it in anyway and had had gloves on, but it was just the weirdest thing I ever received.
That's
So
cool though. Tim,
it
you got
is.
any weird ones?
Oh, I got many over the years because I worked Cal Labs from but I remember a Marine Corps favorite. Oh, I got two, but a Marine Corps favorite was I got a box and it had a repair tag on it. Literally was a shipping box about 10 by 10, and it had a repair tag said broken, and I'm like, okay.
Enough
So I
said.
opened it up and it was one of those Simpson 240s. Remember the old days?
Oh
We had
yeah,
a Simpson
analog.
240. It looked like it had got run over by a tank. It was in 1,700 pieces. It literally was like there was nothing other than the meter itself, the nameplate's how I knew it was a Simpson. And I'm like, broken. Okay, yeah, that's broken.
Will not give proper indication.
My other favorite was when I was working at Southern California Edison, we used to do drug and alcohol testing for the nuclear plant used to drug and alcohol test people all the time, right? As part of if you enter the nuke plant, you could get a random test. You got to go blow into the breathalyzer or take a drug test. So when I was at Edison, we used to do third-party calibrations on some of those drug and alcohol. And one of my favorites was it was a CMI model out of Kentucky, and they have a blower, and it works by IR. You blow into a tube, it goes into a chamber, and then you have transmittance, and you have a light at one end and a detector at the other. And if there's alcohol, it blocks the light, right? So and that is able to be you can correlate that to an amount of breath alcohol content, BAC. So, and I used to run that program. So I got one unit in from Montana, and it wasn't working very well from the crime lab there, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I broke it apart, and I had taken classes on these, so I knew how to do it. So I took the tube out and took the lens out, and I broke it down to its basic element, and there inside everything was hair. And I couldn't figure out it was hair. It was brown, light brown hair. It was thick, coarse. And I called the guys at the crime. I knew who they were. And I called them, and I'm going, because I'd met them at the conferences. I said, hey guys, you sent us this thing. What in the world is inside of this? They go, oh, let me look at the serial number. And I gave them, and they go, oh, that came from the field. That was up one of our northern points near Canada. And I said, so what's in this? He goes, that's moose hair. And I'm like, what? He goes, absolutely, it's moose hair, because they come in and there's moose hair in the air when the wind blows because it's coming down from the mountains, and it blows hair into this. He said, that's one of our big problems. I'm like, thanks for telling me, because I had now, my lab had now moose hair in it, and I had to go through the process of getting moose hair off my counters. But yeah, that was a good one. Moose hair in an instrument. Yeah, that was a good one.
And I was going to say that one that looked like it got smashed by a tank, it probably got smashed by a tank.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for sharing those. And I want to thank you both again for coming on the podcast to talk about MSC. I know it's not always the most fun thing to come on the podcast, but I definitely had a good time. And just so people know, because this will release right towards the end of February, March 25th through 28th is the MSC Training Symposium. So we'll be about a month away when this releases. So get your tickets.
Yep.
Come out and visit us all.
People can come out. They can get a ticket at any time. And like I said, a 1-day pass, 4-day pass, it'll get you into all the events. So please come out and enjoy the education and love to. And if you're new, please come up and introduce yourselves to us. We'll all be there. Mike will be there. Don will be there.
I'll be there. Yep.
Ryan
I'll
will be
there.
there. So we're all going to be there.
Yes.
So please come up and say hi. And otherwise, we'll see you all at the MSC.
Yeah, the
I want to add
podcast.
one thing real quick though. So those that are coming out, that this may be your first time, there's also discounts if you're going to bring your family, because that's one thing a lot of people like to do. You're going to bring your family, you get discounted tickets for Disneyland. So you can come and you can extend your hotel 2 days before and 2 days after the conference. So I've known a lot. Oh, 3 days. See, you said you were going to correct me on something.
He got it in.
I knew he'd give me the chance.
So it can be 3 extra days. So a lot of people will come out and do their metrology stuff and then bring the family out after that or before that. Have the family out, have the family fun, then they go home and you can focus on the metrology stuff. So a lot of people will mix this up out here at the Measurement Science Conference.
And
My
also,
family stays with me. They are in the park while I'm at work.
Yeah.
And also noted that the conference has one of the best Disneyland hotel rates available. And that
Seriously.
yeah, it's a great rate. It's not the least expensive of the area, but you can stay at the Disneyland Hotel at about half price of what they normally charge if you call. So it's a great rate. Good time to come out and experience Disney if that's what you for the family. But it's a good time to just be there. So the conference hotel is available. We encourage you to stay there because it's where all the action is, and you don't have to walk out. But there are other hotels in the area that you can stay at, but they're all comparably priced. So a few extra dollars get you at the hotel. So highly encourage you to come out and book your rooms. But I would recommend booking rooms soon because we do sell out. So it's Easter weekend also at Disney, so that they sell out pretty quick. So please get your room rates in available as soon as possible. And you can do that via the website, www.msc-conf.com. Go to hotels, click on that, and there's a registration link. If you use that, you'll get the conference discounted rate. So, and then the rate is what, Don, 303? I think, tell them 303.
Yes.
I think it's 303, and that is literally half price of what Disney normally charges. So
Yeah,
come
the
on
Disneyland
out.
hotel is insanely expensive at retail. So if you're
Yes.
if you ever have wanted to stay at the Disneyland hotel, this is the event to do it with.
This is it. This is the time to
And
get
also
good pricing.
on the links, also on the MSC link, you can also get your tickets to Disneyland, and they're discounted. But like what Mike had said, but they're through that link.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Yeah, and every now and then there's somebody that'll just hit the links and get the discounts. I know for ASQ, when ASQ and NCSF or ASQ and MSC were at the same time in 2021, I believe it was, the MSC discounts were better than the ASQ discounts.
That's right.
Slam ASQ.
So we've got a pretty good
negotiating
team.
Well, yeah, it's like I said, it's a metrology vacation. It's a vacation focused around learning more about metrology. So, and we should mention the 1 day inclusive passes for the actual event is $995, and then up to and that's also in the register. You can look at the pricing for the symposium, but a 4 day inclusive is $1,595. So just to give you an idea, but again, you can find that, and I'll put a link on the YouTube video to MSC's webpage so that people can go directly to it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yep. And also the all-inclusive pass is you get your breakfast, your breaks, your lunch, your breaks, and then whatever events are going on that evening are all included. And if you only have a 1 day pass, you're still invited to all the events after hours. So 1 day pass still gets you. And if let's say you're on Monday, I don't know if there's a single day Monday, but if you only come in Monday, you can still come back for Tuesday and Wednesday's events in the evening, no extra charge. So you're all passes include the events.
Awesome. Any saved rounds, as we would say in the Marine Corps, right, Tim?
That's right.
Any saved rounds. Well, I want to thank you again, Don and Tim, for coming on, and of course, Mike. But you've been on quite a few times, so I'll probably drag you in another time. But thank you all for coming on and giving us your Friday morning. Again, register for MSC. I highly recommend it, and I'm an independent third party of this, so I think it's a really good time, and it's definitely worth sending yourselves and your technicians too. So. All right. Thanks
for having us, Ryan.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Bye-bye.